Hi, this is James for IELTS United, and we're continuing to work through the IELTS test books together. This is Book 9, Test 2, Listening, Section 4. If you want to listen to the previous section, Section 3, click here. As always, this is a new test for me. I haven't seen this test before, and I haven't heard the audio. So this is a completely new test for me, and we will work through together. I will explain to you how I'm thinking about the test, and hopefully you will learn some useful tips and tricks to help you improve with your IELTS listening section. So, let's start listening.
Section 4. You will hear the beginning of a lecture about business cultures. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Okay, let's take a look at the exam. So in this section we're looking at 31 to 40, so 9 questions. We're completing notes and we heard that it's about a lecture. Now remember, this is section 4 of IELTS listening, and that means we're going to be listening to one person talking about an academic or training subject, and we know that one person is a lecturer here. So this is very important. Write one word only for each answer. You have to remember that as you go through the test. Only one word per answer. Okay, let's go through and make some guesses and also think about the questions. So we're making notes about business cultures. That's what the lecturer will be talking about. And you see here we have a heading, and we also have a second heading down here, a third heading here, task culture. Okay, that's it. So we're talking about 3 main types of cultures, and for each one we have the same headings here: characteristics of the organization, advantages, disadvantages, and suitable employees. So what do you think the characteristics of a power culture are? One is that it is small. Our question is that it has a something power source. So what kind of power source might it have? This is likely to be an adjective, and if we think about a power culture where I assume power is the main key and is in the middle, then we can think that this word might be centralized, central, or concentrated. I'm going to listen for those words. There are few rules and procedures, and communication is by. So how could we communicate? So thinking about technologies of communication like email, writing, social media, speaking, so different ways that people communicate. That's what we're listening for here. One advantage is that it can act quickly. The disadvantage is that it might not act. So we're thinking of how this power culture may not act. It may not act responsibly, may not act predictably. So we're thinking about adverbs that relate to actions. And then who is a suitable employee? So which kind of people work here? Someone who's not afraid of. So what should you not be afraid of if you want to work in a power culture? Maybe responsibility, maybe quick changes. So things that people are not afraid of. So think of synonyms for afraid, like worried or concerned. Doesn't need job security. Okay. Next is role culture. So role is like a position of a person in a company. Characteristics of the organization. Large, many. So if a company is large, what does it have many of? Many employees, for example, many managers, many departments, many structures. So thinking about things within a company that could make it large. It also has specialized departments, okay? Rules and procedure are important. For example, job and rules for discipline. So could be job responsibilities. They're going to be clear in a role culture. So thinking about what kinds of things might be present in a company where your position is the most important thing. And clearly, because we have a conjunction here and a noun here, so it's going to be a noun as well. So we've got a noun plus noun. Okay, let's move on. So the advantages of working in that company are economies of scale. So that means that the company is very big, so it can buy things cheaply. And successful when something ability is important. So what abilities would make such a company successful? Perhaps it's professional abilities, team working abilities, technical abilities. Whatever it is, it's something that is going to be very important to making a role company successful. Disadvantages. Slow to see when something is needed. I think it's probably going to be a word like innovation or change. So a big company is sometimes slow to realize when things like change are needed and slow to react. So that supports that idea. Suitable employee. So who should work here? Someone who values security, someone who doesn't want change, doesn't want disruption, and so we know that it's going to be a noun similar to that. Task culture. So characteristics of the organization are project-oriented, so focused on projects. In competitive market or making product with short life, a lot of delegation. Okay. Advantage. I mean, it's really difficult to guess from that what the advantage will be, so we'll just have to listen carefully. And then the rest is given for us. So let's listen now to the tape.
Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning, everyone. Now, whether you're going to university to study business or some other subject, many of you will eventually end up working for a company of some kind. Now, when you first start working somewhere, you will realize that the organization you've joined has certain characteristics. And we often refer to these social characteristics as the culture of the organization. This includes its unwritten ideas, beliefs, values, and things like that. One well-known writer has classified company cultures by identifying 4 major types. The first type is called the power culture, and it's usually found in small organizations. It's the type of culture that needs a central source of power to be effective. And because control is in the hands of just 1 or 2 people, there aren't many rules or procedures. Another characteristic is that communication usually takes the form of conversations rather than, say, formal meetings or written memos. Now, one of the benefits of this culture is that the organization has the ability to act quickly, so it responds well to threat or danger on the one hand, and opportunity on the other. But on the negative side, this type of organization doesn't always act effectively, because it depends too much on 1 or 2 people at the top. And when these people make poor decisions, there's no one else who can influence them. And the kind of person who does well in this type of business culture is one who is happy to take risks and for whom job security is a low priority. The next type is known as role culture. That's R-O-L-E, not R-O-L-L, by the way. And this type is usually found in large companies, which have lots of different levels in them. These organizations usually have separate departments that specialize in things like finance or sales or maintenance or whatever. Each one is coordinated at the top by a small group of senior managers, and typically everyone's job is controlled by sets of rules and procedures. For example, there are specific job descriptions, rules for discipline, and so on. What are the benefits of this kind of culture? Well, firstly, because it's found in large organizations, its fixed costs, or overheads as they're known, are low in relation to its output or what it produces. In other words, it can achieve economies of scale. And secondly, it is particularly successful in business markets where technical expertise is important. On the other hand, this culture is often very slow to recognize the need for change, and even slower to react. What kind of person does this type of culture suit? Well, it suits employees who value security and who don't particularly want to have responsibility. Moving on now to task cultures. This type is found in organizations that are project-oriented. You usually find it where the market for the company's product is extremely competitive, or where the products themselves have a short lifespan. Usually, top management delegates the projects, the people, and other resources, and once these have been allocated, little day-to-day control is exercised from the top, because this would seem like breaking the rules. Now, one of the major benefits of this culture is that it's flexible, but it does have some major disadvantages too. For instance, it can't produce economies of scale or great depth of expertise. People who like working in groups or teams prefer this type of culture. And finally, the fourth category is called the person culture. This type is quite unusual.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, so some quite interesting things there. We heard that our predictions, for example here, of change were quite effective. It's very useful to read ahead, and then you're able to understand what is likely to come up. One thing I could have done better is I could have looked at these words, like advantages and disadvantages, and thought of synonyms like benefits and drawbacks, which were used in the tape. That would have helped me to move from one part to the next. Also notice that they used a lot of the words from the form, so you're able to follow quite closely the order through which the questions go. Right, so let's check our answers. So, number 31 was central, correct. 32, communication by conversations, yep. And it doesn't matter whether you put singular or plural, that's fine. 33, they might not act effectively. Good. 34, suitable employees not afraid of risks. Again, it doesn't matter if you put plural or uncountable form, that's fine. 35, the characteristics of the organization is that it's large and there's many levels, right. 36, job descriptions. Again, doesn't matter if it's description or descriptions. 37, advantages, successful when technical expertise and ability is important. So 37, the answer was technical. So, really important, guys. You can see that I've made a mistake here. It says one word only for each answer, and I've written 2 words, technical expertise. So it's so important that you pay attention to that part that says one word only, because if they ask for 1 word and you give 2, you may not be successful in your answer. So it's so important to read the instructions, otherwise you'll make the same mistake as me. Okay, let's look. Number 38, change is needed. So change is right, 39 responsibility, and that is responsibility, and 40 is flexible, and that is flexible. So I hope that you learned some useful things here. If you made a lot of mistakes, feel free to go back and listen again. You can turn on the subtitles if you're using YouTube on a computer. This was IELTS Textbook 9, Test 2, Listening Section 4. If you want to hear the previous section, Section 3, click here. If you want to listen to the next test, click here. And of course, you can always join us on Facebook, where you can communicate with our group of teachers and students who share resources and advice for the IELTS exam. Good luck with your revision, and good luck with IELTS.